Part 19. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 182. I thought that Pei-jun would not be able to eat the food outside and would definitely come back, but Mr. Pei never expected that his grandson was frowning at this moment, carefully taking a kitchen knife and cutting on the cutting board. Lily was originally going to cook, but after Pei-jun saw her cutting the vegetables, he resolutely refused to allow her to touch the newly bought cutting board. Every potato strip he cut seemed to be carefully measured and not too long. It can't be too short, and naturally it can't be too thick or too thin. Lily's cooking skills have already reached the intermediate level, but now she is disliked. "Ajahn, you don't know how to cook, so let me do it." As soon as she finished speaking, Pei-jun took out a yogurt from the refrigerator and handed it to her. "Eat." After he finished speaking, he turned back and began to frown and try to feel the feeling on his hands. He was wearing the pink apron that Lily had prepared for him. His tall and thin figure cast a long shadow in the kitchen. In the clean and tidy kitchen, he frowned and looked at the various items in front of him with a troubled expression. Sample dishes. To be honest, this look is really eye-catching. Although Lily is hungry at the moment, seeing that Pei-jun refuses to give up the kitchen to him, if the vegetables are not cut well, he will definitely not eat them later, so he was left to fiddle with it, but at worst, he could just do it by himself when he gets hungry later. Standing by and watching, Pei-jun, who was not very good at chopping at first and even dumped a lot of potatoes, gradually seemed to have found the feeling. The movements of his hands became faster, and the sound of the kitchen knife falling on the cutting board was heard. There was a sound, and neat strings of potato shreds fell to the side. They were of moderate thickness and slightly different lengths. He took a knife and cut off the excess. Finally tidy. A long relieved smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Next, the green vegetables were washed after being ravaged. The shredded meat was also cut neatly. Seeing how he was about to cook, Lily thought that there was no recipe at home, so she had to stand aside and instruct him to add oil and salt. For a while, the two of them were very busy, although the ingredients were chopped well. But in the end the dish still tasted average. Fortunately, the rice was cooked in an electric rice cooker. Lily only ate half of the bowl and put down her chopsticks. She didn't notice Pei-jun's thoughtful look when she put down her chopsticks. After eating and taking a shower, while sitting in the living room watching TV with Pei-jun's neatly cut fruits, Lily felt a more comfortable atmosphere than before in Pei's house. Lily woke up from the cold the next morning. She had to tuck herself into bed, just because she slept with Pei-jun before. This guy had a very neat sleeping pattern. He would definitely cover her up subconsciously when she hit the quilt. Now, unexpectedly, she would be woken up by the cold. It was already dark outside. Lily took her phone and looked at it. It was not even 8:30. Pei-jun would leave her without anyone around. Lily sat up and put on slippers and went downstairs. There was no one in the living room downstairs, and she didn't have Pei-jun's phone number. Just when she felt a little strange, there was a crisp sound of chilla in the kitchen. She turned towards the kitchen and saw that she was wearing a black silk shirt, with her lower body. Pei-jun, who was wearing gray slacks, was currently wearing an apron and busy with a spatula in his hand. Several plates were placed next to him. There was a strong smell of eggs in the kitchen, and the trash can was already filled with eggs that didn't look very good after being fried. "Xiao, he is awake." Pei-jun turned his head and glanced at her with bright eyes. At this moment, the spatula in his hand turned over, and a beautiful cut egg was placed on the plate. "I was about to call you." Seeing the smile on the corner of his mouth, Lily felt a little sad in her heart. "How long have you been up?" "It didn't take long. I went to the supermarket to buy something new." "Ziahe, I'm going to cook again for you to try today." Pei-jun quickly turned off the fire. The porridge in the pot had already been cooked. In the evening, a prince who has never cooked has now learned to make beautiful omelets. He originally didn't like driving or going into the supermarket. You could tell from the look on his face yesterday, but he actually drove to the supermarket alone. He didn't know how long it took him to practice to achieve the current results. The breakfast dishes were not rich, but Lily felt a little sour in her heart. He also boiled brown sugar water and put it steamingly in front of Lily. Ziahe, you drink. Pei-jun took off his apron and sat in front of Lily. He put his hands on his thighs and stared at Lily. His eyes were bright. He watched Lily take a sip and then said in a flattering manner, "Okay. Do you want to drink?" Lily nodded. It did taste good. There seemed to be a faint medicinal aroma in it, which was offset by the fruity taste. She was a little curious. "Ajahn, why did you cook this for me? I heard people say that girls should drink this during their menstrual period. It can replenish qi and nourish blood." "I've read it all," Pei-jun answered confidently. Lily froze. She didn't expect to get such an answer. She couldn't bear it. He couldn't help but twitching the corner of his mouth. "Where did you hear that?" "It's all said in the book." After talking about this, Pei-jun stood up hurriedly. There was a cardboard box in the corner of the living room, which had been opened. He took out a copy at random and handed it to Lily. "You see, I'm doing exactly what it says." The big words "beauty" and "beauty," a must-read delicious recipe for girls, almost blinded Lily. She trembled and reached out to take the book, then stood up to look at it. The box was mostly empty. Apparently, it was all filled with food. With such a book, she couldn't help but ask, "Why do you buy so many of the same books? Every time I turn it over, it smells like it. I don't like it, so I change it one book at a time." He was better behaved today and answered just one question. He was obviously in a good mood, but Lily looked at the book in his hand, and then read it again. He looked at the box on the ground and fell silent. It was a good time for the two of them to be alone. Pei-jun was almost completely immersed in this kind of life. He liked the atmosphere of only two people in the house, which made him feel that the two of them only belonged to each other. There were no servants or outsiders, just like it's like a secret world between the two of them. He's been getting better and better at his crafts recently. In the past, he would sometimes be in a daze, but then he started thinking about making food for Lily all day long. He likes to watch Lily eat the food he cooked, which made him feel very satisfied. He didn't understand what it meant to be unloved. He once overheard people in the company saying that he must love Lily very much. At that time, he was a little shy when he heard it, and the same sweet feeling came to his heart. It's just that the good days didn't last long, and Mr. Pei couldn't sit still. The grandson he imagined would definitely come back to Pei's house sooner or later. This didn't happen. Pei-jun didn't like the sound of the phone, so he couldn't contact his grandson. "I haven't seen him for several days. This child is the only gift left by his son." Old Mrs. Pei's heart ached thinking about it. Finally, he couldn't stay still that day and went directly to the place where Pei-jun usually worked. He came here based on time, because he was afraid that Pei-jun didn't like to be disturbed when he was working. He had a characteristic similar to that of the Pei family. Once he was working, he couldn't think of anything else, and he didn't like to be disturbed. He could only talk to him after get off work. Say. Mr. Pei felt that it was too messy. How could the two children live outside for such a long time? Can it be done if no one takes care of Pei-jun? Although the eldest girl of the Lin family has become calmer in recent months, she is still a child after all. Even if she can take care of her grandson, she will never be able to take care of him. Mr. Pei was so determined that his car was parked downstairs of Pei-jun's company. When he saw him coming out, Uncle Jean breathed a sigh of relief and stopped in front of Pei-jun, obviously to let him get in the car. "Grandpa," Pei-jun called out slowly and unhappily. Before Mr. Pei had time to put on a smile and let him get in the car, he was about to pick him up and take him home. He saw something ringing on Pei Jun's body. He actually took out a mobile phone from his pocket and answered the call. "Ziahe. What do you want to eat?" "I'll buy it, okay." Mr. Pei wanted to laugh when he saw the scene in front of him. This was not his grandson. His grandson didn't like the ringing of the phone and didn't have that much smile on his face. He also had to go shopping. He could compete with the seller. Did anyone talk? When old Mrs. Pei thought that it was Lily who had just called, he felt a little angry, thinking that she was teasing his grandson. However, Pei Jun looked at him seriously and said, "Grandpa, I'm sorry, I can't play with you anymore. Ziahe wants to eat steamed 8 treasure fish and balabala with white fungus, lotus seeds, and lily soup." Old Mrs. Pei wanted to laugh again when he heard this. Is the person reading the menu now really Pei Jun? While he was still in a daze, Pei Jun had already turned around and walked towards the garage. When he drove out, Mr. Pei finally came to his senses. "Follow him and go to where he lives," he said. What a great grandson. Now he seems to be possessed by an evil spirit and has become abnormal. It was necessary for him to find a doctor for Pei Jun. Following Pei Jun, I saw him entering the supermarket and carrying a lot of things out. When he saw it, Mr. Pei couldn't help but rub his eyes and took out the binoculars. It was indeed him. His face still wearing a goofy smile, he put his things in the car and drove away. Doesn't he like the taste of these dishes? A person who can't even put fruit in the car. What did Mr. Pei see him put in just now? There is fish and meat. But the excitement was more than that. When he arrived at the villa where the two of them lived, he got out of the car and knocked on the door. Lily was holding a bowl of fruit salad and was still chewing it. After opening the door, both of them were stunned. Looking at Lily's leisurely look, you can tell she's not the one cooking. Old Mrs. Pei was even more surprised when he saw that her face was rosy. She seemed to have gained some fatter than before, and her chin was round. He didn't even bother to change his shoes, and hurriedly ran towards the kitchen in the direction of the sound. What did he look at? What arrived? His always introverted, naive, and autistic grandson is currently cooking with a spatula tied to that ridiculous apron. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 183. Haha, old age makes people's eyesight. Mrs. Pei laughed dryly, turned around and glanced at Lily again, and saw that she was indeed eating in her pajamas, and his grandson was busy in the kitchen with sweat on his cheeks. He was furious, pointed at Lily and scolded, "How can you let a man go to the kitchen? Are you crazy?" Hearing Mrs. Pei's voice, Pei Jun turned off the fire and tasted the food before he returned the things to their original places, washed them and put them away. He washed his hands and wiped them clean. The kitchen returned to a dusty state. He just came out with his dyed appearance. "Grandpa is here too." After he said this, he saw Lily's bare feet on the ground and hurriedly went to get her slippers, asked her to sit down and put them on for her, then raised his head and rushed. Lily smiled slightly. Lily knew what he wanted, but when she saw Mrs. Pei, she couldn't help but smile awkwardly, lowered her head and kissed Pei Jun gently on the forehead. Mr. Pei was about to speak with a sullen face, but Pei Jun had already entered the kitchen happily. He shouldn't let his grandson come out. Look what good things Lily has done. The heir to the Pei family is now working as a servant here. He originally thought that Lily would not be able to take care of his grandson, but now it seemed that instead of her taking care of Pei Jun, it was clearly Pei Jun who was taking care of her like a horse. When Mr. Pei was so angry that he vomited blood, Pei Jun served him a bowl of rice. When he tasted it, he couldn't help but want to cry again. I don't know how Lily tortured him during this period. His grandson, his poor and miserable grandson, the cooking was so delicious. Lincoln you, I have asked her to go back. You guys should move back quickly. Mr. Pei glanced at Lily with some reluctance. This was a loving meal made by his grandson. He hasn't had it before. This damn girl Lily started to enjoy the blessings. While talking, Mr. Pei desperately put vegetables into the bowl. What's it like living outside all day long? His grandson should have been filial to him, but now he is taking advantage of this little girl Lily. Look at what she does for some good reason. He treated his grandson like a dog. He glanced at her while eating, and without her having to say anything, Pei Jun did the work of carrying water and vegetables. Mrs. Pei gritted his teeth at the sight and touched his belly after the meal. Thinking of what I said before, I was about to speak again, but I saw Pei Jun go into the house and cut 2 more bowls of fruit. If his grandson hadn't been so gloomy half a year ago, he might not even recognize the smiling child now. Although Mr. Pei was a little dissatisfied with what Lily had done, he actually admired Lily in his heart. He could teach his grandson as if he had changed into a different person in just a few months. In fact, he should thanking her. I just saw Pei Jun acting like a cow and a horse, so I couldn't express my gratitude. In the end, Pei Jun rejected Mrs. Pei's request to go home. He fell in love with this way of taking care of Lily, which made him feel as if his life was meaningful. Before his parents passed away, he was always immersed in his own world and refused to come out, but now there is one more person he wants to take care of and protect, and he is willing to try to get out of the cage he drew for himself for Lily. After school started, except that Pei Jun returned to picking up Lily from school again, the days passed as before. The smile on Pei Jun's face was much more than before, and he was almost no different from a normal person. After graduating from the second half of her 3rd year of high school, Lily applied for a university in the imperial capital. Although her efforts this year were still a little short of the score line, the Pei family and the Lin family were rich, so they could just stuff some money for her. Mr. Pei was already reluctant. He said that as long as she graduates from high school, the 2 of them will get married first. After all, although Mr. Pei was dissatisfied with his grandson-in-law, he was now eager to hug his great-grandson, so he urged them to come together. The Pei family has prepared everything. The engagement banquet is tomorrow. Lily took her transcripts out of school and wanted to wait for Pei Jun to drive over to pick her up. A car suddenly stopped in front of Lily. Father Lin looked fierce. He jumped out of the car and had not seen each other for nearly half a year. When he saw Jin again, he was not as calm as before. Instead, he looked a little embarrassed. He pointed at Lily and cursed. "Rebellious girl, why don't you die?" Lincoln Yu also got out of the car. At this moment, she looked a little haggard and unwilling. She was about to enter her sophomore year. In this regard, she had an advantage over Lily. She glanced at Lily coldly. "Sister, it's okay if you don't help me. I don't blame you, but you also have a share in the Lin family's company. Why did you do that?" The 2 people didn't know what they were talking about. Lily glanced at them and turned to leave. Father Lin was furious. "You just watched the Lin family's company being acquired? What on earth did you say to the young master of the Pei family? You this dead girl." Lily ignored him, and Lincoln Yu chased after him. She reached out and pulled Lily. Her fingernails scratched a red mark on the back of Lily's hand, and there was a dangerous look in her eyes. "Sister, do you want to know a secret?" Lily saw her weird face and was about to speak, but an idea seemed to come to her mind. She didn't want to know such a secret. "Sister," she didn't want to hear it, but Lincoln Yu's words still reached her ears. "Pei Jun, he couldn't recognize who you were before? He thought you had left long ago. In the years when he was with him, but I don't know who you are at all. My good sister, do you want to marry him like this? He doesn't like you and can't even recognize you. You are such a failure. Your parents don't love you. Even others think they like you. Your master Pei doesn't even recognize you. You've lived in the Pei family for so many years, you've been a non-existent character for so many years, it's ridiculous." The fog in my mind was suddenly lifted, and a sharp pain surged instinctively in my heart. Those two sentences came back and forth. He can't recognize you, you really failed. The truth that Lin Bei had always wanted to hide was ruthlessly revealed by Lin Qianyu. Now Lily felt the original owner's discomfort in her heart, and she couldn't help but feel a little tired of Lin Qianyu. Her originally pretty face became a little distorted by jealousy, and her eyes showed hatred. Lily Lin in the plot was not her opponent, but it didn't mean that Lily couldn't do anything to her. So what? I am no longer loved by my parents, but I am the upright daughter of the Lin family, and you are just an illegitimate daughter. Pei Jun can no longer recognize me. It will be me, not you, who will become the Pei family's young lady in the future. She's just a shady figure with the reputation of being the illegitimate daughter of the Lin family. Do you dare to tell the outside world that you are his daughter? As long as I am willing, you will never get ahead. After saying this, Lily feeling strangely calm in her heart, Lin Qianyu stared at Lily hatefully with her lips trembling. Lily's words touched on what she feared the most. She wanted to be Pei Jun's wife because she wanted to make those who looked down on her in the past and let her live a shady life for more than 10 years have a good look. She is the one who can bring hope to the Lin family. She is the future young lady of the Pei family. She wants to get ahead more than anyone else. Her mother has taught her to fight since she was a child, and she has fought, but Pei Jun didn't even give her a chance. If she had a chance, she would do no worse than Lily. However, because they were born half a year late, one was born to the main wife and the other became an illegitimate daughter. Lily had been willful for a few years, and she actually married the prince of the Pei family. Lin Qianyu gritted her teeth bitterly and dug her nails into her flesh. Pei Jun's car stopped in front of the school gate. He got out of the car and opened the door for Lily himself, and covered her head for her, just to avoid being hit by her. Such a considerate man should have been hers, but unfortunately because of Lily's trick, she lost such an opportunity. In the car, Pei Jun glanced at Lily several times uneasily. Although his eyes only wanted to stay on Lily, Lin Qianyu's expression just now was so weird. He glanced at it and remembered that this girl seemed to be investigating. The one in the middle was Lily's sister. He pulled Lily's hand uneasily, and gently stroked the red spot where she had just been scratched with his fingers, and said cautiously, "Zia." He was a little worried, but Lily glanced at him. Lin Qianyu said, "Have you dealt with the Lin family? Although Pei Jun is a little simpler, he is not stupid. He has never thought of rectifying the Lin family before. In his world, black is black and white is white. There is no such thing as a sinister person. There is only an upright conspiracy. The same is true in business. This is the first time I heard that he was dealing with the Lin family. Logically speaking, he should be very happy that the Lin family raised him as a gift to him." Lily was puzzled at this moment, but saw Pei Jun nodding honestly. "I don't want him to take you back, and I don't want him to take you back if I don't like you coming back to the Lin family in the future. Zia, I know I didn't do a good job, I sent them abroad, please don't be angry with me, okay?" In Pei Jun's simple world, since he treats Lily wholeheartedly, he naturally hopes that Lily will treat him wholeheartedly and not see other people in his eyes. He will not always want to destroy the relationship after knowing that the relationship between the two is good. The Lin family, who always wanted to call Lily, appeared. A dark light flashed in his eyes, and he did not tell Lily that he had cut off the many calls to find her and kept her by his side. He knew that he had gone too far and was wrong in the eyes of many people. But he couldn't help it. He wanted to monopolize everything about Lily. He wanted to get her, so that from now on she would only see him. Lily didn't speak, and Pei Jun became a little anxious. There was no concealment of panic in his eyes, his lips pursed into a straight line, and he just stared at Lily as if pleading, "Zia, he is mine, Zia, he is mine." She didn't care if the Lin family was unlucky, but Pei Jun's behavior gave Lily a vague sense of familiarity. "Then why did Lin Qianyu say that you couldn't recognize me at all? I used to be by your side all the time, and you actually said I wasn't even here. She asked this question on behalf of the original owner Lin Lily. She thought Pei Jun would explain hastily, but unexpectedly he took a serious look at Lily. Ziahe was indeed not Ziahe before. It was only on your birthday that you finally came back. Have you forgotten? Lily's eyes widened when she heard this, but Pei Jun seemed a little confused as to why she would after asking such a question. He explained, the former Miss Lin was Miss Lin. I know her. After she changed into a different person, it seemed like. His ears turned red and his eyes began to dodge. As if it was difficult to say, as Grandpa said, he was possessed by an evil spirit. He said these words in a very soft voice, and Lily couldn't help but want to laugh when she thought about how the original owner had changed, and she also sighed for the original owner. But on your 19th birthday, you came back. I know that you are not Miss Lin, you are you. After Pei Jun said this, he stared at Lily seriously again, but he did not expect that he had no intention of doing so at this moment. What Zhong said made Lily tremble all over. What he meant was that he knew who the original Lin Lily was, and the day he entered the mission was indeed the birthday of the original owner. In my memory at that time, Pei Jun had not slept with Lily Lin for several years. He stopped doing such things after he was 10 years old. He just hid alone in his room, but that night he appeared. Lily originally thought it was a coincidence, but now it sounded like it was no coincidence at all. Then why didn't you tell me then? Lily asked, feeling her throat a little dry. Pei Jun glanced at her curiously and saw beads of sweat on her forehead. He gently wiped it off for her with a handkerchief. What did you say? His voice was a little low, and his eyes were still as clean and clear as when they first met. Zaya, he didn't ask me. If asked, he would tell. But how could Lily have thought of this at that time? She couldn't help but close her eyes, but Pei Jun was smiling. I know, you're back. I said, you will always be mine. After he said that, he looked like it was as if he was a little confused about what he said, but it made Lily tremble all over. The more innocent and simple thinking people are, the more likely they are to discover something that others can't notice at all. Lily thought that Pei Jun could hear the different sounds of milk shaking, and he could see that a certain thread on two almost identical pajamas had something different. Even with slight differences, he would naturally find out that he was not the original owner. This was not the first time she had encountered such a situation. Lily desperately called out to Li Yangzi in the starry sky, but Li Yangzi did not answer. But after the engagement, one day Pei Jun seemed to understand something. Unlike before, he just touched the water like a dragonfly. When he touched her cheek, her soul flew up lightly. A year and a half later, she gave birth to her son. Mr. Pei was happy that the Pei family had an offspring. He no longer had the same grudge against Lily as before. The Lin family had returned to where they came from. Pei Jun was so possessive that no one else could. Unexpectedly, he didn't like the Lin family using their identities as parents to get close to Lily. He was afraid that Lily would come back a different person one day because of this blood relationship. He tried his best to block the connection between the Lin family and Lily. It's just these little thoughts that he didn't mention to Lily. In the end, Lin Kinyu, who had spoken to Lily, failed to become a lady recognized by the Lin family as in the plot. The Lin family's property shrank. Even if a shady illegitimate daughter like her could get a share of the dowry, it would only be very meager. It's just a small amount of money. The position of the young lady of the Pei family and the man with a different identity are just a dream after all. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 184. Different from the previous times when Li Yangzi was waiting in the space when he returned to the starry sky, this time Lily had already appeared in the starry sky, but he didn't see Li Yangzi's figure for a long time. He couldn't help but be a little dazed and looked around subconsciously. At first, when Li Yangzi was not waiting for her in the starry sky, Lily didn't think there was anything wrong with this situation. But now, once Li Yangzi changed his mode, she instinctively felt that something was wrong in her heart, and she also felt that there was something wrong with her mission this time. I felt a little uneasy. "Sir, are you here?" Lily struggled for a moment. Although she was anxious and yelled at Li Yangzi when she entered the Dragon King mission, it was because she was a little shocked when she suddenly turned into a man. Now she replied after a while. Lily was really embarrassed to call her eldest brother or something like that because of her relatives, so she could only try to call him adult again like before. There was no echo in the starry sky, and Lily felt a little uneasy. After a wave of ripples, her face looked paler than usual. The expressionless figure of Li Yangzi slowly appeared from the starry sky. "You're back." He didn't say congratulations on completing his mission, which made Lily's heart sink. She forced a smile and glanced at Li Yangzi. "Didn't I complete the mission this time?" Li Yangzi had a sinister air on his body and glanced at Lily. "It was my negligence this time." His voice was a little cold, as if there was still a bit of anger. "There are some problems with Lily Lin, but don't worry, she no longer exists now." Although Lily had already expected that the mission might not be completed, she still couldn't help but feel chilled when she heard Li Yangzi's acquiescence. She managed to calm down. But it was a bit disappointing. Li Yangzi saw clearly, and his expression softened. "This matter has nothing to do with you. Isn't Lily Lin's wish to be with Pei Jun? Lily is not afraid of the difficulty of the mission or the complexity of the original owner's wish. What she is afraid of now is that this mission will have nothing, as if she is like a headless fly." I fumbled and bumped around, and all that was left in my memory was the depressing feeling. "Hear her ask this," Li Yangzi said calmly. "She wants to be with, but she doesn't like that you finally learned her biggest secret." Even if Lily went to do tasks for the original owner, she was still an outsider in the original owner's mind. In the past missions, some of the original owners who wanted to change the ending were grateful to Lily, while others were full of resentment like Lin Lily. She originally suffered from depression, and her heart was full of sadness when she died. She wanted to get the crown prince of the Pei family, but she felt a little inferior after knowing that Pei Jun didn't have her in his heart at all. She felt scared because she had been hurt by something in the past, but no one came to comfort her. Although the Lin family doesn't like her, she has never been loved by her parents since she was a child. In fact, she hopes that Lily can take care of the Lin family for her, so that the Lin family will always please the humble in front of her. She has hatred for the Lin family, but at the same time, there was love. She felt that what Lily did later was indeed a bit refreshing, but she couldn't help but sympathize with her parents. In addition, in the plot, she has been trying to find a sense of presence in front of Pei Jun, but Pei Jun has already turned a blind eye to her. This is undoubtedly the final fatal blow to her. She has been trying her best to improve her sense of presence, but unexpectedly in the end, she ended up like that. She already had psychological problems. Although Lily completed the task for her well, but compared to the two, the person she wanted ended up falling in love with another person who entered her body. Naturally, Lily felt jealous. She was jealous of another person who was doing a task for her, so she chose not to be satisfied with her wish for the task this time. "Then there should be no reward for my mission this time, right?" Lily felt a little helpless and couldn't help but become a little vigilant. Although she had a lot of time to complete the mission, the chance of failure could not happen all the time. This time the failure of the mission meant that her future missions would be more difficult. Not only could she never fail again, but she also understood that not all of the original owners were easy to get along with. "I don't have any rewards here, but maybe there will be many other rewards." Li Yangzi slightly raised the corners of his mouth. His eyes were cold at the moment. His smile gave people visual enjoyment, but it also made people feel uncomfortable at all. When Lily felt a little warm and didn't understand what he meant, her information appeared in the starry sky. Gender, female, variable. Name, Lily. Age, 21. Intelligence, 64, out of 100. Appearance, 63, out of 100. Physical strength, 62, 100 full points. Force, 32, out of 100 points. Spirit, 18, out of 100 points. Reputation, 16, out of 100 points. Skills, 9 Yang Manual, 9 Yin Manual, Heaven and Earth Gate Tao Te Ching, Southern Gu Technique. Specialties, Intermediate Cooking Skills, Advanced Acting Skills, 5 Elements and Bagua Skills. Charm, 33, out of 100. Collection, Corpse King's Love, Saint's Blessing, Angel's Heart, Dragon King's Promise. To Lily's surprise, although the mission failed, several of her attributes increased accordingly. She was stunned for a moment, her eyes brightening. How could this happen? Li Yangzi seemed to understand what she was going to say, and said without hesitation, Lin Bei, he was erased by me, and what she had, I gave to you. Lily obviously completed the task, but Lily dared to go back on her word without knowing why. Li Yangzi killed her directly without saying anything to her. Lily paused, and when she was about to say thank you for a long time, she saw the Dragon King's promise to collect a column of her own. Now she saw Li Yangzi's cold face, and inexplicably she felt that this time Li Yangzi looked at her. She seemed to be in a bad mood. Last time, because her reputation was greatly reduced, she didn't seem to notice this, and she didn't think of asking before leaving. Anyway, this time the mission passed without knowing what the Dragon King's promise was. Lily hesitated for a moment and decided to wait until she completed the task next time. Do you want to rest for a while? A dark color flashed across Li Yangzi's expression, and then she asked in a low voice. Lily shook her head, with a look of melancholy on her face. Pei Jun had a simple mind during this mission, and spending her life with him didn't make her mood fluctuate much. She was still calm at the moment, although Pei Jun was far worse than before. No man she has ever met can make her fall in love with her more involuntarily, but now that she has decided to go down this road, she will never regret it. Even she herself cannot stop her from wanting to be forever. Determination to survive. No, I want to enter the mission again. Lily felt a little complicated in her heart, but after sighing, she still chose to enter the mission again. She was afraid that after hesitation, she would be like Li Yangzi said, like many people who chose to stay in the plot. Become a part of the plot. After Li Yangzi heard this, the smile at the corner of his mouth became deeper and deeper, and he took a deep look at Lily. Then I wish you good luck. The last words she heard before she fell into a trance did not make Lily really feel lucky. When she woke up, the sun was still shining brightly outside, but in Nyoda's room, she could only smell the sandalwood coming from the incense burner on the table. The light breath made people drowsy. On an unusually exquisite bed, Lily had a lot of plots stuffed into her mind. She finally took in the plot with a splitting headache. This time she entered a place called the Daki dynasty and became one of the concubines in the harem of the Daki emperor who had just entered the palace. It sounds nice to say that she is a concubine. In fact, her current status is just that of a constant. Her status in the palace is very low. In addition, because of the embarrassing background of the original owner, her life in the Daki harem is very difficult. The original owner himself came from Nanzhao Kingdom, and his surname was Lan, also called Lily. Speaking of this, I can't help but mention Qi Yufeng, the emperor of Deqi's harem. He was neither the eldest son nor the direct descendant of Deqi, but now he is handsome and charming, and he is also good at martial arts. In the later battle for the throne, defeated the prince and the eldest son of the emperor, and killed these brothers to death. In the end, the king of Qi died inexplicably and the throne was passed to him. The first thing Qi Yufeng did after ascending the throne was to send troops to attack Nanzhao. Daqi and Nanzhao lived next to each other. Compared with the surrounding powerful countries such as Daqi, Nanzhao was only a very small country. Qi Yufeng took the Nanzhao royal family after the man had them all slaughtered. He welcomed several princesses and the daughters of princes and princes from Nanzhao into the palace as concubines. The body that Lily has to do the task this time is Lan Lily, the eldest princess of Nanzhao Kingdom. She was originally from a noble family, but unfortunately she lost her life when she met Qi Yufeng. When Nanzhao Kingdom was destroyed, she followed several younger sisters. The daughter of a prince and minister was kidnapped into the palace by Qi Yufeng. She was still a little happy and longed to become Qi Yufeng's woman. She had liked Qi Yufeng for a long time. When the Nanzhao Kingdom was broken, she was summoned to sleep by Qi Yufeng on the first night, and broke the Yuan dynasty. Since then, his heart has been attached to Qi Yufeng. Among the women who were taken captive, Lan Lily was the only one with the most enchanting appearance. It can be said that her appearance not only surpassed all the people in Nanzhao, but also almost no one in the harem of Daqi could match her appearance. Generation. After Qi Yufeng tasted her for the first time, he directly made her a permanent one. The other princesses of Nanzhao Kingdom just got the title of maidens, and some of the daughters of princes and ministers even got the title. The original owner thought that she would make Qi Yufeng look at her differently with her beauty and talent, and she would fall in love with Qi Yufeng even more, but she didn't expect that everything was just her fantasy. Lan Lily fell in love with Qi Yufeng so much that she secretly saw the third prince of Daqi disguised as a man when Nanzhao entered Daqi many years ago, and her heart fell in love with him from then on. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 185. Lan Lily loves her so much that she doesn't care if she will be scolded by the Nanzhao survivors if she follows Qi Yufeng. She also doesn't care how her sisters and Nanzhao ministers will view her. If Qi Yufeng wants her to go to the left, she will go to the left, even if Qi Yufeng kills her. Despite her father and brothers, she endured not interceding on their behalf. When she was in Nanzhao, Qi Yufeng easily used her reputation as the eldest princess to win back some of Nanzhao's old-fashioned talents, but it had hidden dangers for her. After returning to the palace, Qi Yufeng became indifferent to her. The original owner didn't take it seriously and thought that Qi Yufeng was taking business first. At first, she tried not to cause an encounter with Qi Yufeng like those vulgar women. She didn't care how many women Qi Yufeng had. After all, it was natural for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines at this time. Her requirements were very low, she just hoped that Qi Yufeng would have a place for her in his heart. It's just that Qi Yufeng has a cold and evil personality, and is never moved by the tears of any woman. In addition, he is young and has a noble status. Only women have always pleased him, but he has never pleased women. The original owner originally thought that this was Qi Yufeng's true love. Unexpectedly, when he came back from an unexpected visit one time, he saw Qi Yufeng holding a woman in his arms in the imperial garden. When she was heartbroken, she saw the appearance of that woman. She was the daughter of General Li, the minister of Nanzhao whom she had never paid attention to. General Li was loyal and patriotic. When Nanzhao was destroyed, he ignored Qi Yufeng, the emperor of Qi. He surrendered and committed suicide with a knife. His only daughter, Li Baihu, did not originally look very good. She was remembered as a girl with a cold personality. The original owner was a little sad that these women were serving him because they were both Nanzhao survivors. When he was a husband, he never took Li Baihu seriously. She thought that she was the only Changzhe in Nanzhao Kingdom who had been favored by the emperor and received a higher title. He also distributed the few rewards he received to these people. Although there was some intention to show off, in this cold Daqi harem, she at least felt that people from Nanzhao were safe for her. Unexpectedly, she saw Li Baihu and Qi Yufeng together. After entering the palace, Li Baisu had been living in seclusion and had not seen each other for several months. In the past, Li Baisu, who was gloomy and thin in her impression, seemed to suddenly have a huge change. The change. There was a coquettish look between her eyebrows, and her appearance seemed to have become much more beautiful. Originally, because she was the daughter of a general and was not locked up in a boudoir like an ordinary girl, her skin was still a little dark, but in a short period of time, her skin became breakable. People say that whiteness covers three ugliness. With her whiteness, not only did her appearance become much brighter, but her facial features were even more delicate upon closer inspection. That figure is very enchanting. The scene when he smiled and stretched out his hand to hook Qi Yufeng's neck stabbed the original owner's heart. She saw Qi Yufeng tapping Li Baisu's nose with a smile that he had never shown to her before, with a doting look on his face, and the original owner's heart suddenly became clouded. She was unwilling to give in, and she also tried to win favor. However, after more than 2 months of hard work, when she had become the object of fun and a clown for everyone in the palace, Qi Yufeng finally impatiently summoned her to sleep with her again. It was such a blessing. Yes, she was pregnant with a dragon. Just when the original owner was feeling proud and happy that she was pregnant with the flesh and blood of her sweetheart, she accidentally heard the maid in Li Baisu's palace saying that it was because Li Baisu and Qi Yufeng accidentally had an quarrel that day that Qi Yufeng displeased, he walked away. In order to get angry with Li Baisu, Qi Yufeng angrily summoned Lily, the original eldest princess of Nanzhao. His original intention was to embarrass Li Baisu. The two reconciled as before the next day. Qi Yufeng apologized to Li Baisu behind him. After admitting that she shouldn't have touched Lily that day, Li Baisu forgave Qi Yufeng. While the two were extremely happy, they never thought about how the original owner felt when he heard about it. Qi Yufeng, whom he regarded as a godlike sweetheart, had always only vented on her and had never spoken softly to her. He actually quarreled with Li Baisu and even apologized to Li Baisu as the emperor of a country. It's okay if she doesn't like Qi Yufeng. Maybe she won't be so embarrassed when she heard this, but she was treated as rubbish even though she was sincere. Even more so when she heard Qi Yufeng talk about her in a teasing tone, Lily felt resentful in her heart. He set up a trap to take revenge on Li Baisu, but Qi Yufeng, who had always ignored the fights between women in the harem, felt as if someone had touched him for the first time. He personally asked the secret guards to investigate the truth of the matter. The original owner originally thought that she was pregnant. Even for this reason, nothing serious happened to Li Baisu, but she was just aggrieved. She originally thought that Qi Yufeng would not embarrass her, but who would have expected that Qi Yufeng would do it for her? In order to vent her anger on the unhappy Li Baisu, she was given abortion pills and finally strangled to death. After the death of the original owner, the resentment could not be quelled, so Lily came to do the task. But the truth shown in the plot made Lily a little amused. In the eyes of the original owner and others, Li Baisu, who was getting more and more beautiful day by day, was not just ordinary because she was young and had no hair. She was actually not an ordinary person. When he was originally going to follow his father to die for his country, he got a system from another world called Beloved Concubine Development System by chance. This system is all-encompassing. In addition to the physical requirements for Li Baisu's body, there are also a series of names for eyes, lips, nose, face shape, etc. In addition, voice manners and charm are also included. As long as Li Baisu completes the so-called by completing the task of the system, she can have something, or improve some level of beauty, such as a perfect slim waist or slender legs. In this way, she will naturally become more and more attractive day by day. After her charm is fully achieved, not to mention that Emperor Qi Yufeng could no longer look away when he saw her, even women couldn't help but be intoxicated by her beauty when they saw her. Precisely because of the systematic help, she has proud breasts and an almost impossible voluptuous figure. The original eldest princess was a gorgeous and charming beauty. This natural advantage was originally very obvious, but when she met a Wen Li base whose beauty score reached nearly 100% after completing her mission every day, the original owner naturally didn't care. What's even more incredible is that Li base whose system can also sense people's likes and dislikes of her. If someone has a strong impression of her, the system will clearly indicate it. And if people's favorability towards her drops, of course she knew it in her heart. Therefore, it is almost impossible for anyone to harm her. As long as Emperor Qi Yufeng's affection for her does not increase, Li Baishi can change her attitude towards the emperor, find a way to increase his favorability, and finally make him fall in love with her wholeheartedly. She thus realized her lifelong wish to be together. When Lily finished receiving the plot, she couldn't help but let out a long breath. She felt that this mission was a bit tricky. The original owner has two wishes. One is probably to defeat Li Baishi and become Qi Yufeng's lover. When she has no advantages at all, Lily only feels that this is difficult to achieve at the moment. The second point is that the original owner probably has a mixture of love and hatred for Qi Yufeng. Although the original owner took action against Qi Yufeng's lover first, her method did not kill Li Baishi, but actually pushed Qi Yufeng and Li Baishi. While Qi Yufeng and Li Baishi were loving each other like a young couple in this world, the original owner lost the child in his belly who he thought was the fruit of love. And finally lost her life after miscarriage. Qi Yufeng probably didn't like her at all, and he didn't even have the slightest affection for her. For the sake of Li Baishi and to vent his anger on her behalf, he didn't care about the unborn child at all. As the saying goes, tiger poison will not eat the child. He could have left the mother to keep the child, but he did not do so and directly got rid of it. The original owner's child, this was what the original owner hated most about him. When thinking about how to spend a lifetime with Qi Yufeng to make up for the regret of the original owner's early death in the plot, but also to make Qi Yufeng miserable, Lily also said that she couldn't think of a way at the moment. She has completed several missions, but no matter how difficult the mission is, there is always a chance of survival. If the problem can be solved by force, it is not a problem. She can work hard and one day she can complete the mission. But whether she loves it or not is something in the world. The most elusive thing is whether someone will fall in love with her. The most Lily can do is try her best, but falling in love can also make people suffer. Lily couldn't help but laugh twice and turned over lazily. This time's physical appearance can be said to be stunning. If the later Li Baishi can reach a truly perfect 100 points, then the original eldest princess will have at least 95 points or more, but even this can't conquer the hearts of men. Love when you are a dogtail, you are definitely a rare treasure in his eyes. When he doesn't love you, even if you are a rare species of orchid, you are more of an eyesore than a weed in his eyes. My mistress, are you awake? According to Baihi's current status, she is not qualified to be called empress, and she is not qualified to greet the queen at all. After sleeping all day long, she eats, and after eating, she dresses up and waits for the emperor. With the advent of the harem, if you are lucky enough to be able to do something with Qi Yufeng, the whole day of the harem woman will pass like this. But sadly, the original owner is not the most favored one. She has no status, no favor, no strong natal family, and some are just peerless. Her beauty and the people in the harem are just plotting against her. It is worth mentioning that because of the beauty of the original owner, even if she was not favored, she still attracted the attention of the concubines in the harem, who regarded her as their number one enemy and plotted against her everywhere. Qi Yufeng in the plot could target her in the harem. He was very satisfied with attracting everyone's attention. He secretly and carefully protected the beloved woman who said on their wedding night that he would treat him like her husband. When no one noticed Li Baishi and was plotting against the original owner at every turn, he gave Li Baishi a period of space for growth, allowed her to avoid most of the dangers when she was fragile in the early stage. It also allowed Chi Yufeng to discover the unique charm of Li Baisu when the women in the harem did not notice her before she understood her own feelings. Beautiful. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 186. Because Li Baisu is the daughter of a general, she not only has the tenderness and fairy-like allure given to her by the system, but also has the strength, self-respect, and self-respect of a general's daughter. Unlike many vulgar fans, Li Baisu has Chi Yufeng. He felt the warmth of an ordinary couple, and the ordinary life that he had never felt since he was a child. Even during these times, when everyone in the harem tortured the original owner to death, he thought it was the suffering that he had to endure for love. Chi Yufeng slowly fell in love with the heroine after reaching 70%, and finally fell in love with her. When Lily thought about this part of the plot, she couldn't help but have the urge to vomit blood for the original owner. The maid outside brought a basin in. Although Lily is not favored now, because of her peerless appearance, the maid serving her is still dedicated. Everyone in the palace thinks that Lily still has hope of turning around, so although Lily was in great embarrassment everywhere in the palace, the attitudes of the palace maids and eunuchs did not change. Take care of it for me. Lily sat up listlessly, letting the palace maid help her up and get some clothes to put on for her. At this moment, the plot should have just progressed to the time when she had just entered the Chi's harem. I just had contact with Chi Yufeng, but when Chi Yufeng favored Li Baisu a month and a half later, everything changed. Chi Yufeng is 28 years old this year. He is in the prime of life. He has a cold personality and does not particularly like the concubines in the harem. Except for resting in his palace on the 1st and 15th day of every month, he takes turns summoning the concubines in the remaining 10 days. Fortunately for the concubines, the queen is almost no longer favored due to her old age, so although the queen occupies a quota, but except that she gave birth to a pair of sons, there is nothing that everyone in the harem needs to pay attention to. Maybe I've had enough of Daki's beauties. He still maintains a certain interest in the beauty Chi Yufeng, who was just kidnapped by Nan Zhao into the palace. He has met almost everyone. Some of them took notes and received some rewards and never had a second chance to get close to the holy face, while some of them were registered as the lowest ranking female captives. Because Lily's body was particularly beautiful, her status was slightly higher. She was a constant presence, although her status was lower than that of other women captured from Nanzao Kingdom. Hi. But compared with the concubines and concubines in Daki's harem, as well as many of Jiu's noble concubines, they are nothing. People like her have to bow and kowtow when they go out. Lily was thinking about things in her mind, and let the eldest palace maid put on the clothes for her while smoking, feeling very worried. A month and a half later, when Li Baisu really accepted the favor, and the favored concubine system began to give her endless benefits, it was time to, even though Chi Yufeng didn't really like her, he was deeply impressed by her and began to get close to her. I am willing to give her more attention, even though her favorability score is only 2%. But compared to the fact that the people in the harem didn't even have a little favorability in his heart, he knew how difficult it was to improve this favorability. What's more, although the emperor of Dachi's harem may not necessarily have 3,000 beauties, there are definitely hundreds of beauties. Chi Yufeng is a romantic every night, sleeping with one every night, and it will never be the same for a year. In such a situation, under the circumstances, Chi Yufeng was favored by the beauties and was not particularly outstanding. A woman like Li Baisu, whose appearance was really inconspicuous among a group of harem beauties at the beginning, could actually make Chi Yufeng remember her name. This shows how rare it is. Logically speaking, this beloved concubine system is somewhat similar to the rewards obtained after completing Lily's tasks in one aspect. They are both based on a certain thing and are rewarded after completion to increase the attribute values in various aspects such as appearance. However, the system in Li Baisu's hands, but it's very powerful. After completing so many missions, Charming Lily only has more than 30 points now, but Li Baisu directly added 5 points after accepting the favor for the first time. From now on, every time Chi Yufeng touched her, she would add a few more points every time she was jealous of a woman. Within half a year, her charm points were filled up, so that the system later rewarded her with a slim waist, slender and delicate features. Her thighs, her skin as white as snow that turns green when touched, and her shiny black hair, etc. Almost all of her body, hair, and skin have been directly strengthened by the so-called system, and she is so beautiful that there is no flaw at all, as if a delicately crafted beauty that makes people unforgettable once they take one look at it. Lily had a headache at the moment. Facing such a growing enemy, she really didn't have a clue for a while. It's a beautiful spring day today. I heard from Hanzu that the peach blossoms in the garden to the east of my predecessor are also in bloom. Why don't I go sit down and pick some peach blossoms to bring back and decorate them in the palace? Hanzu has 2 lilies. One of the eldest maids has a good relationship with many maids in various palaces and is well informed. At this moment, he was suggesting to buy he with a hint of smoke. Although Chi Yufeng was not fascinated by beauty, he was not a man who did not know how to be charming. At his age, jealousy among women was not for him. It is said that as long as it does not hurt his bottom line, he will enjoy and indulge him, and some small tricks can easily gain his temporary favor, so that he will be favored and his status will be improved. Lily's status in Dachi's harem was too low. If it weren't for her peerless beauty that everyone in the harem couldn't compare with her, I'm afraid the ladies in the palace would have already found their own way out. Although Lily had no interest in Chi Yufeng, she thought that her mission must not fail. Therefore, when she heard Han Yan's words, she knew that she must have found out that the emperor would definitely appear in the peach garden. But Lily knew in her memory that even if Hanzu found out where the emperor would appear, the final benefit would definitely not fall on her. But there was nothing she could do at the moment, so she decided to go out for a walk, so she thought about it and agreed. The original owner used to rely on her status. Because she was born in Nanzao and the eldest princess had an extraordinary appearance, the original owner had a sense of pride in her bones and did not bother to compete for favor like ordinary people. Hanyan had also made such a suggestion before. If she was in a good mood, she would refuse directly. If she was in a bad mood, she might get scolded. When Han Yan asked her to try her luck, she actually had no hope in her heart. She originally thought that if this goes on, when she wants to find another way out in the future, Lily unexpectedly agrees to her suggestion, leaving her stunned for a moment, and actually feeling a little ecstatic. This slave is going to find some beautiful clothes for the young master. Hanyan exchanged glances with the people next to him, and everyone in the palace became a little happy. When Lily saw the pink palace makeup that Hanzu held, she couldn't help but frown. Just wrinkled up. The original owner was bright and gorgeous, and she had a romantic and charming look when wearing red, but this natural charm fell into disgrace when compared with the original Li Baisu. On the surface, Li Baisu seemed not as charming as her in the early stage, but her appearance was very ordinary or even inconspicuous. But after taking off her clothes, even though she was not as good as Lily, she still gave people a sense of surprise. Therefore, in Chi Yufeng's heart, she originally thought that this Li Baisu was not that good, but after he took off his clothes and found that she was far more interesting than he thought, he naturally paid more attention to her. Chi Yufeng felt that Chi Yufeng had no taste for a peerless beauty like Lily, who was instantly gorgeous and gorgeous. Although it was a bit strange at first, as time went by, I realized that she was supposed to be beautiful, and it was natural no matter how attractive her body was, otherwise her appearance would be in vain. No matter how much happiness Chi Yufeng got from his original owner, it was not as big a surprise as Li Baisu's surprise, so he was not so popular with people. There is no need to wear this color. I remember that the emperor once admired the Baiwan gauze to make a skirt and found it for me. The Baiwan gauze is turquoise in color and is generally used to make curtains, bed curtains, and clothes. There are very few of them. After all, although this Baihuan gauze is precious, if most people use it to make curtains and wear it themselves, it will inevitably make people laugh. This kind of material was originally a specialty of Deqi. Nanzhao was just a small country. The original owner didn't know the reason. Although he didn't like the color after receiving such a reward, he regarded it as a treasure because it was given by Qi Yufeng. Let people make clothes. Later, when he realized that he had made a joke, he naturally never wore it once, so he locked it in a cupboard and locked it out of sight. If it weren't for the fear of getting into trouble for destroying something given by the emperor, I'm afraid the original owner would have cut it off long ago to avoid being laughed at as a bumpkin. Hanyan is the eldest maid next to Lily. Of course she knows the character of the original owner. She made a joke and made a dress out of the material that was used to make the curtain. She was deeply ashamed of it, but she didn't expect Lily to look like a different person at this moment. Asked to wear those clothes. The original owner had a graceful figure and snow-white skin. Although it was not like Li Baishu's 100% perfect skin after being modified by the beloved concubine system, it could still be said that her skin was whiter than snow. Han Yan took the Baihuan that the original owner had never worn before with some dissatisfaction. After the gauze dress came out and Lily put it on, Han Yan was immediately surprised. Because of the material, this dress was not sewn very tightly. The white satin tube top on the chest did not add any extra color. The upper body of the dress was just loose and gathered around the small shoulders. The plump crisp her breasts were made more and more prominent by the clothes that were trying to cover up but were still exposed. The sleeves under the two jade arms were made of flowing cloud sleeves. The waist was pulled very high. Because the skirt could not be exposed, it was layered and moved around. The gauze swayed in the room, full of fairy spirit. When I first saw the clothes made of green gauze, I thought it was immoral because of the smoke. But now that Lily is wearing it, the plain color is originally very serious and old-fashioned, but it is dignified because of the clothes. The style of the skirt exudes charm, and what's even better is that Lily's slightly cold eyes make her look charming but not vulgar after putting on this dress, which even surprised Han Yan. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 187. What are you doing standing still? Lily turned around and glanced at Hanyan. Her hair was pulled up loosely and she didn't wear any extra jewelry. During these missions, she had to some extent developed some vision, so she naturally knew what to do. This kind of dress can really suit you. In the Daki dynasty, everyone from the harem to the common people regarded luxury as beauty. The original owner's gorgeous appearance was very popular, and the concubines were even more colorfully dressed. They were as gorgeous as they wanted. Even the appearance of Li Baishu, later she is low-key, but in fact she is pampered by Qi Yufeng. She looks ordinary on the outside, but in fact has a low-key and luxurious temperament. Li Baishu has already gone down this road, and because of the help of the system, she will still have a more perfect appearance than Lily in the future. So if you want to be more perfect and charming, Lily can't compare to her. Since appearance can't compete, cuteness if she can't compete, then she has to compete with her temperament. Even if she can't compete with her temperament, fortunately, she still has advanced acting skills, so she can at least bluff people. The original owner does not have a separate palace because her current status is too low. She is still living in the palace of the noble Wang. As soon as she goes out, Lily can feel the eyes of the noble Wang in her team. Out. After she left the palace, she remembered that in the original owner's memory, such an encounter had never happened before. However, her clothes had already been changed, so she couldn't go through it in vain, so she left the palace. Since the king, even if the nobleman is willing to send someone to follow him, she doesn't care. When they walked all the way to the royal garden, it turned out that she was not the only one who had heard about the news today, but there were also a large group of concubines. Even the two concubines who were only named now were already sitting in the garden. Stunning and colorful. Listening to the chuckles from a distance. Looking at the beautiful faces of the other, Lily couldn't help but stop and squint her eyes to admire them. This scene is really eye-catching. A group of beauties are trying their best to show off their most beautiful sides for the emperor who doesn't know when to come. Although the garden is full of laughter, Lily can't see it. I couldn't help but laugh. Someone saw her coming from a distance, and the garden was quiet for a moment, and then everyone waved to her affectionately. When Lily appeared with pursed lips, the smiles on the faces of the two concubines were a little forced. The noble concubine Lu looked at Lily up and down, and then said sourly, "After a day's absence, Lanchanze seemed to have changed someone. How come he even wore Bai Huan gauze? Could it be that Nan Zhao's position was hanging down? Haven't you seen anything good?" As soon as she finished speaking, everyone couldn't help but cover their mouths and laugh softly. When Li Baisu was being favored in the dark, everyone regarded the original owner as a formidable enemy. After all, the original owner was as beautiful as any other, and he also had an innocent and arrogant temperament for the first time in the palace that the concubines in the palace did not have. It was really an eyesore, but Lily was not as stupid as the original owner now. Think of this as the process that you must go through to fall in love with Qi Yufeng. The original owner was educated to be unfavorable and mediocre, but Lily believes in the principle of shooting the first bird. Sometimes it is natural to stand out when it is time to stand out, but when it is not time to stand out, you must know how to act stupid, otherwise you will end up like the original owner. If you appear early, you may die early. In the harem, only those like Li Baisu, who clearly have the system in hand but know how to be patient, will win in the end. Sisters, you are right. Nan Zhao has indeed never seen such a good thing, but it was given by the emperor himself, and the slaves will naturally wear it. Lily's identity at the moment is not qualified to call herself a concubine. Among a group of concubines, in front of the concubine, she could only attract these women to stop focusing on her by calling her a slave and trying her best to show her vulgar and ignorant side. But in the plot, she blocked so many disasters for Li Baisu that she almost never had anyone plot against her in the early stage, because no one focused on a woman whose figure and appearance were not obvious at all, so she received system rewards. Everything was replaced by her own charm and appearance. Lily thought clearly at this moment that Li Baisu had such an invincible thing. The first thing she had to do was not to prevent her from being favored, but to turn her advantage into a weapon. Not so obvious. If many palace concubines take action against Li Baisu, then even if she can get rewards from the system, if all these rewards are used to eliminate the conspiracy in the palace, then her appearance will not be so obvious. As long as she can slowly, don't make Qi Yufeng curious all at once, Lily will naturally think of a solution later. She was not smart, so she naturally had to work hard when facing such an enemy. Lily closed her eyes, thinking about the news she had learned from the palace maid cigarette today. Emperor Qi Yufeng should have come all the way from Zikan Palace to the palace. Coming out of the garden, now that all the concubines have received the news, it can be seen that even though Li Baisu has a low status, she has a system for favoring concubines, and the system will definitely remind her. Since the system wants to remind her, it will definitely not let her ordinary appearance be drowned in a group of beauties. The most likely thing is to let her wait somewhere where Qi Yufeng may pass by. When Lily thought of this, she couldn't help but smile silently with her red lips raised. What did Lanchanze think of to smile so happily? Concubine Hui, one of the two concubines, saw a trace of jealousy in her eyes when she saw Lily's expression. The key is that Lily's body is really tall this time. She is so beautiful and enchanting that even if she has her own appearance and charm, it cannot affect her still very attractive impression in the minds of others. Concubine Hui, please listen to this slave. I see that the spring scenery outside is perfect right now. Sisters, why don't you go out for a walk? Maybe you can meet the emperor who is also taking advantage of the sunshine. Lily made a big-breasted and brainless gesture. She looked like this, holding a beauty's garden fan in her hand, covering her mouth and laughing. There was no makeup on her face at the moment, but her red mouth was red, and even through a layer of gauze fan, it was still looming and seductive. Several concubines couldn't help but curse the monster in their hearts when they saw it, but their hearts moved when they heard Lily's words. Why did they come out at this time? They wanted to have a chance encounter with the emperor. Except for concubine Hui and concubine Xian, who had the opportunity to meet the emperor for 2 days every month, many of the mistresses probably rarely saw him in a year. Qi Yufeng said that if he didn't think of other options, he could only die in the palace of old age for the rest of his life, and naturally many people would not be willing to do so. All the women paused when they heard Lily's words. Some of them didn't take it seriously and wanted to sit in the pavilion and wait for Qi Yufeng, but they were afraid that Qi Yufeng would be dazzled and lost his mind after meeting the concubines who were going out. Looking further here, whoever can cut off the beard in front will naturally have a greater chance of winning Qi Yufeng's attention, so everyone's hearts were moved when they heard this. Hanyan and Hanzu exchanged helpless glances, and glanced at Lily anxiously. They didn't know why she told others about the opportunity they had finally found out, and couldn't help but lower their heads in depression. Go down. Sisters, please go ahead. Lily saluted and felt relieved. If the girls were still waiting here, Qi Yufeng would have met Li Baisu long ago. As long as he had the impression of Li Baisu left in his heart, it was only a matter of time before she fell in love with her, and Lily spared no effort to destroy this chance. Concubine Hui and others saw her fluttering dress and full of fairy spirit, and naturally they didn't want to let her dominate the front. Coincidentally, some girls and those with better status than Lily walked in front and blocked her firmly at the back. A group of female talents followed the clean road paved with bluestone in the royal garden in the direction where Qi Yufeng came. As expected today, everyone found out which way the emperor was coming. When they were about to reach the flower pond, concubine Hui, who was walking in front of everyone, suddenly stopped. She took a breath and almost stood at the end. Lily in front of her also heard the sound of her gnashing her teeth. Who is this? Concubine Xian couldn't help but stretched out her hands and clenched her fists, and asked with a trembling voice. Lily couldn't help but squeeze to the front. No one paid attention to her rude behavior at the moment, because everyone was already stiff and mad, staring straight into the distance, at the edge of the imperial flower pond about 10 feet away. A girl in pink clothes is leaning lazily on the edge of the arched bridge pier. The pink palace makeup outlines her skin tone that has been enhanced by the system. In this season of blooming flowers, she looks even more seductive. Incomparable people. A tall figure wearing blue uniform stood here with his back to everyone. He had already curled up the girl's hair with one hand. The girl was facing this side. The girl saw the anger and dissatisfaction on her face and heard her yell. Who are you? I am the emperor's woman. The words seemed a little panicked, with a bit of vibrato, coupled with her timid appearance. Even if Qi Yufeng's face could not be seen, everyone was so excited. After a while, you will naturally understand how useful he is. Besides Qi Yufeng, who else could be the man who could appear openly in the royal garden? Such an appearance made Lily want to laugh. She turned around and saw that all the women around her had livid faces and gloomy looks in their eyes. Look which sister this is. Concubine Hui ordered in a sweet voice. When she turned to look at Li Baisu, although there was a smile on her face, her eyes were full of gloom, which showed that she was not in a good mood. When everyone behaved like this, Lily knew that her goal had been achieved. As long as everyone pays attention to the beginning of Li Baisu and Qi Yufeng and doesn't give them time to develop their relationship, her purpose of coming out today will be achieved. It's a pity that the meeting between the two cannot be ruined now. It can be seen that Qi Yufeng is in a good mood for such a small encounter. If anyone recklessly ruins his mood, he will definitely be ignored in the future. A group of women had a very accurate feel for the emperor's heart. Even if they were so angry that they gritted their teeth, no one would dare to speak out and be the first to show off. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 188. Lily also had some regrets in her heart. She knew how powerful Li Beihu's system was. If Qi Yufeng was satisfied with her first impression, the system would definitely reward Li Beihu, ranging from appearance, temperament, and figure, to playing music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Everything is fine, but it's a pity that she has no way to destroy it. The spring is beautiful now, and it would be great if there is a heavy rain. Once the heavy rain starts, these two people will be in an extremely embarrassed state, and they probably have no intention of having sex. As soon as the thought appeared in her mind, the sky that had seemed clear just now suddenly turned gloomy. Boom, the thunder sounded, and huge raindrops fell down. Papa when the raindrops hit the body, it hurt hard. Not only Li Beihu in front was shocked, her lazy hair, which was carefully combed, naturally lost its shape when hit by the rain. The heavy hair was the palace attire stuck to her body, and her previous luxurious temperament could no longer be seen. The women here also screamed. The group of delicate and beautiful palace concubines could not withstand the baptism of the rain. They were all afraid that their makeup would be blurred if they stayed any longer. While they were desperately trying to cover their faces with fans, not caring whether the emperor would notice that he and others were here, everyone was hurriedly running towards a place where they could hide from the rain. Lily's body seemed to have been drained of strength at this moment. Her face was so pale that she couldn't muster any strength at all. She stood there stupidly. The two maids behind her thought she saw the emperor going crazy. After all, Lan Lily liked Qi Yufeng so much in the past that others thought she was competing for favor, but the two personal maids had some clues. Han Yan was about to speak, but Qi Yufeng had already heard the noise on the other side. Turned his head. A group of women entertained him by looking like drowned rats. His handsome face showed a bit of sarcasm. His lips curled up. Obviously he didn't mean to pity these women. He withdrew the hand holding Li Beihu's hair. The hair had not been strengthened by the system. Although it looked good at the moment, the disgusting feeling after getting wet it made him feel a little uncomfortable. The young emperor saw the woman behind him running away quickly, but he was surprised to see someone standing still. The thin Baiwan gauze was now soaked by the rain and clinging to her body, revealing her exquisite curves. That curve is more than 10 times better than Li Beihu's current figure. It would be fine if she didn't have any strands on her body, but the transparent Baiwan gauze was looming on her body, giving people a feeling that she wanted to wear her clothes. After tearing it open, I felt the urge to look at the scenery under the skirt. Qi Yufeng's eyes showed interest. He has never been a person who would wrong himself. Naturally, he decided that Lily would sleep with him tonight. He had been busy with business for a while. Since the Nanzhao kingdom was included in the territory of Daki, he has many things to be busy with, and the harem has not been here for several days. Thinking of the soft female body, he was about to take a step over. Li Beihu didn't expect that he was going to leave, so she became a little anxious. She took his hand like a hurried little daughter and shook it twice. "Who are you? You haven't told me yet." The beloved concubine system had already told her that if she didn't get Qi Yufeng's favor for a long time, she would be punished, so she hurriedly clicked her charming voice twice, and then sent the rest of the system's favor. All 3 points were added to his skin. At this moment, he came out to meet the emperor after being reminded by the system. But unexpectedly, God was not kind and it started to rain heavily. At this moment, Li Beihu couldn't help but want to scold her mother. The heavy rain hit her face, hurting her so much that she could hardly open her eyes because she had to hold her breath to avoid letting the rain fall into her mouth. She spoke naturally. He was angry and anxious, and his originally charming voice also showed a bit of anger due to the rapid speaking speed. Her words sounded like she was interrogating herself. If Chi Yufeng was on the bed, he wouldn't mind flirting with the beauty, but now he is in the royal garden. Now he obviously has a better goal. Li Baisu still couldn't satisfy him, so naturally he didn't have much patience. Without beauty, Chi Yufeng's sanity was certainly not something that the current Li Baisu could destroy. He sneered twice and felt that Li Baisu was holding his palm with a trace of emotion. The wet look on his face made him look even more ugly. If someone else appears in this garden, then since you are the emperor's woman, why are you still flirting with other men? He has seen such tricks many times, and he found it quite interesting just now, but now it started to rain. The heavy palace clothes hung on Li Baisu's body, which made her body look particularly petite and did not match the clothes. Chi Yufeng had not called her to bed at this moment, so naturally he did not know the charm of her petite body. Looking at her clothes at this time, it was obvious that it was too wide, and it seemed that her figure was not worthy of this dress. Once it was no longer eye-catching, and she no longer had the weird feeling of teasing Li Baisu just now, Chi Yufeng shouted without hesitation, "Let go. Li Chengui, look at which palace she is from, and let people keep an eye on her. Don't wander around if you have nothing to do. This dress is not suitable for her. Don't wear pink again in the future." Just now, the pink body was naturally bright under the spring light, which highlighted the girlish and lively feeling in Li Baisu's body. But now it rains heavily, and the clothes are as heavy as a sack hanging on her body. There is no girlish atmosphere anymore, giving there was only a heavy and embarrassed feeling, which made even the slightest interest Chi Yufeng had before now turn off his appetite. The young and high-spirited emperor did not see the embarrassment in Li Baisu's eyes, and strode towards Lily, twisting his clothes. Li Baisu looked at his figure, biting her lips until they turned white, with a fragile yet stubborn look on her face. Hanyan really wanted to kneel down for this little master now. It was raining so hard that it hurt even if it hit her face. However, she still stood still in the rain. In the past, although this little master showed that she liked it very much. "Your Majesty," Hanyan originally thought she was sensible, but now it seems that he really thinks highly of the eldest princess of Nanzao. "My lord, it's raining heavily. Please take me back to the palace. Although the emperor is right in front of you, if you get caught in the rain and get cold this time, you may not be able to sleep for several months, isn't it? Is it worth the loss?" Hanyan felt contempt in her heart, and Lily was also speechless. She just thought it would rain, but unexpectedly it really started raining. At this moment, all the strength in her body seemed to have been drained, and she could not even stand up. "I'm trembling, where can I move my steps?" "Lan Chang is here." Chi Yufeng came closer and saw Lily's bright face. The rain falling down her face because she didn't wear makeup, it only looked a little more attractive to her usually radiant face. She was pale and tender, and her rouge and gouache did not flow down with the rain like other women. The green gauze she wore on her body had a stunning feeling. At this moment, the gauze was stained with water and clung to her body. The tall, plump breasts and slender waist were perfectly displayed. Chi Yufeng's eyes flashed with anger. He could almost imagine what she would look like wearing this gauze on a clear day. "Li Chengui!" Chi Yufeng shouted behind him without blinking. Most of his attendants, who already knew the Holy Heart very well, handed over the cloak. Chi Yufeng took the cloak and wrapped Lily up, then hugged her waist. Lily finally breathed a long sigh of relief, then blinked, softened her body, and fell quietly into Chi Yufeng's arms. If the women who were being scattered wildly in the harem saw such a scene, I'm afraid they would tear off the veil with gritted teeth, but just now everyone was caught in the rain and they were afraid of being cold and sick, so they couldn't care about hooking up now. "Your Majesty," except for some palace officials who have not completely given up, standing in the corridor and looking this way from a distance. The rest of concubine Hui and others have all dispersed. Some women were blowing in the wind, their wet clothes clinging to their bodies, but when they saw the emperor carrying a figure away, they all gritted their teeth with hatred. At this moment, because the cloak was wrapped around the body, no one looked at it. When he saw who was being held by Qi Yufeng, he thought it was Li Baisu in pink who had talked to him before, and he cursed Li Baisu in his heart. And now Li Baisu, who had finally returned to the palace, caught a cold. She had a very serious cold, but she didn't dare to tell others yet. She saw that in the system, almost most of the women in the harem suddenly turned against her. Gandu couldn't help but smile twice. Such a bad feeling in the system's judgment is also a reflection of her charm. Therefore, although there are many people who hate her, the system still gave her 5 points. Thinking of her current body, she had to spend 5 points to get one that could cure all diseases. After taking the pills, my body suddenly felt relaxed. But in this way, she lost an opportunity to add these 5 attribute values in other aspects, and she couldn't help but secretly feel regretful. Lily had fainted since she was picked up by Qi Yufeng. Before her mind fell into darkness, she thought of the Dragon King's blessing. She vaguely understood that this strange heavy rain might be related to her sudden and uncomfortable body. When she woke up, it was already dawn. When she opened her eyes, her body was held in someone's arms. Her body was a little weak. After feeling that she was not wearing clothes, Lily couldn't help but subconsciously push the baby in her arms. With the help of someone, it was okay for the figure to sleep soundly, and she rolled under the couch with a dong sound. Qi Yufeng, who had just stood up on the bed with one hand, saw this scene and couldn't help laughing. He had no intention of reaching out to pull Lily. His hair was scattered on his half-naked chest, with a bit of charm. Is it possible that my beloved concubine doesn't like sleeping on the couch and only likes to sleep on the ground? He grinned with a half-smile, and raised his slender red phoenix eyes. The bridge of his nose is straight, but his lips are extremely thin. He looks good-looking, but even when he smiles, he gives people a chilling feeling. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 189. Lily's body was not only weak now, but her whole body was hurting from the fall. Her head hit the pedal, and her hair was scattered all over the floor. The key was that she had almost no strands on her hair. At this moment, she reluctantly stretched out her hand to cover her chest. The fullness of her body covered her, and after enduring it again and again, she could barely endure the curses that were about to come to her mouth. According to the rules of the harem, the concubine must sleep outside when serving the emperor, so that she can serve the emperor. She had always slept by herself before and forgot about this, otherwise she would definitely not push someone away. Qi Yufeng looked at her as if she were a clown. She struggled to endure the pain and climbed up to sit up. Her smooth black hair covered most of her naked back. Lily then reluctantly said, "Greetings to your majesty, I'm rude and frightened." She had just woken up, wondering if it was the after effects of yesterday's rain. Now her head was throbbing with pain, and she was shocked when she fell down. He thought she had held back, but in fact, Qi Yufeng saw that her cheeks were red and her eyes seemed to be spitting out fire. She was not as bright and beautiful as usual, but she looked more refined than usual. The appearance was even more attractive. He was stunned for a moment, and suddenly his heart beat 2 beats faster. Although he was quickly suppressed by him, this uncontrollable feeling made Qi Yufeng's eyes become colder and colder. He stretched out his hand. He hooked Lily's waist with his arm and dragged her to the couch, teasing softly. "I feel sorry for scaring my beloved concubine. Let me see if it hurts." From the fall his voice became lower and lower, with a kind of forbearance, and Lily felt that her soul was floating again. When she woke up again, it was already dark. Hanyan and others had already brought face wash and were waiting by the bed. Lily opened her eyes. Hanyan said happily, "Young master, you woke up? The emperor has already given the order. You don't have to go to pay your respects to the queen today. Eunuch Lu has already sent a reward on the emperor's order. I feel that this time, there is a possibility of mentioning take the position of the young master. What happened last night was good for her. After her soul floated out and entered her body again, the splitting headache she felt when she woke up in the middle of the night had disappeared a lot. She couldn't help but rub her forehead and let out a long sigh of relief. Just when she was about to speak, Hanyan came forward with a smile and kneaded her. "My lord, you have a headache." My lord felt uncomfortable leaning on the emperor last night after Lily was brought back by Qi Yufeng yesterday. It's like a different person. He rubbed himself against Qi Yufeng and cried out that he had a headache. This kind of thing was not uncommon in the harem, but in Han Yan's opinion, this little master Lan did it too stupidly. He thought it would not succeed, but in the end, the emperor but he stayed, and even the royal noblemen in the main palace sent people to invite him several times, but the emperor sent him back. "Your Majesty wants to promote me to the throne." Lily didn't hear any words about rewards, and directly grasped the most critical point. The status of the original owner is really too low now, but he is just a 7th grade permanent person. He goes out to meet people. Then he knelt down. The most important thing is that it is not easy for these 7th grade Changzhe to see the emperor. Unless Qi Yufeng is interested in her, she may not be able to see Qi Yufeng for a year. Although Lily is sure that she will not attack Li Baisu because of her pregnancy like the original owner, but if her status is better than that in the plot, that's a little higher, which is very good for her to do things. "Congratulations, little master, congratulations to the little master." The emperor has given the title to the little master. Hanyan congratulated with a smile on her face, and asked someone to quickly bring up the words written by the emperor. Lily opened it and saw that it only said. He couldn't help but roll his eyes and almost threw everything in his hand. "It means that I'm still just Changzhe," she said quietly. Han Yan glanced at her curiously. Although many nobles and concubines were promoted to status, they were not personally gifted by the emperor at all. Even the 2 concubines Xian and Hui have not received this honor now. Hanyan would have thought that she would be very happy for Lily to receive such treatment, but unexpectedly she didn't look happy at all. Lily sighed and looked away from the doubtful look on Han Yan's face. She thought of what happened to Li Baisu yesterday. Although Qi Yufeng did not follow Li Baisu in the end, no one knew what kind of impression Li Baisu left on him. Thinking of this, Bei no longer cared about her status, and directly summoned Hanzu, another eldest maid, to come to her. "Hanzu, you have been in the palace for many years and know a lot of people. Look at the people in the palace. Is there anyone with a playful and lively personality and a petite and exquisite figure who can be found for me? Doesn't Li Baisu like to be special?" Seeing that in order to impress Qi Yufeng, the emperor even said that he wanted to be husband and wife. Unfortunately, Lan Lili himself was too stupid at the beginning. After the Nanzhao kingdom was destroyed, not even the remaining power of the Nanzhao royal family could be retained. Otherwise she would not turn to Hanzu for help now, so she would find someone to do it herself. The 2 palace maids didn't know why she made such a request again. Han Yan was a little happy at first, but when they heard the meaning of Lily's words, their faces froze. "My young master, could it be? It's just to be prepared." Lily smiled slightly, without any intention of explaining any more, and stood up while the 2 maids waited on her. Since Qi Yufeng told him not to pay his respects to the queen after going to bed, it proved that he had no intention of keeping a record of last night. Even if the emperor slept with a maid in the palace, he still needed to keep a record. If he didn't record the last night, it would be wrong. "I just don't want others to know, and I don't want to give myself the chance to get pregnant because of last night." Sure enough, not long after, Lu Hao, the young apprentice of the chief manager next to Qi Yufeng, sent a bowl of dark soup. She originally didn't want to get pregnant at this time. Anyway, As long as the task could be completed, it would be best if the child could be born. But now is not the time. Now Qi Yufeng is very wary of her body. If she gives birth to a child at this time, it will just push Qi Yufeng further. Since the original owner hopes to take revenge, it is best to get Qi Yufeng's favor. She was a little troubled by this, but although she didn't know how to gain favor, she could at least make Qi Yufeng not hate herself so much. He simply drank the medicine, and Qi Yufeng seemed to have forgotten about Beihe from then on. He ordered the second concubine to sleep with him for several days in a row. Although everyone in the palace gritted their teeth with hatred, they were helpless and had to try their best to think of ways to get rid of Lily. After meeting the emperor by chance, Hanzu indeed found a few palace maids to come over. At this time, there were many palace maids who wanted to climb up to Qi Yufeng and fly to the sky. When Lily saw these palace maids, she laughed maliciously. These palace people all know that Beihe may be doing this just to take advantage of them, but there are at least 2,000 to 3,000 palace maids like them in Dichi's harem. Even though many people may not be able to see the emperor's face in their lives, now they can do this given an opportunity, let alone Lily wanting to send them to the emperor. Even if Lily had other requests, this group of people would definitely agree. Thinking about the tricks that Li Baisu always left with Qi Yufeng in the plot, Beihe took advantage of Qi Yufeng's absence to teach these palace ladies one by one. It was related to their future, so naturally these people learned it was very fast. After about 7 or 8 days, all the performances came to life. There were sad expressions, playful looks, and people who deliberately did things by chance but showed their best posture. Lily felt that the time was almost up, so she asked Hanzu to go out. After inquiring about the news, they informed the palace ladies respectively. Never underestimate the determination of these palace ladies who want to get ahead. At least 3 of the 5 people Hanzu found were successfully recruited by Qi Yufeng. Both of them got the status of show ladies, and one even got to be favored. Some directly sealed the beauty. Just when Lily was a little proud of her achievements, the noble lady in the main palace finally couldn't bear it any longer. She directly summoned her personal maid Chuan Lily to come for tea. No one in Lily can compare with others in terms of status and qualifications. As soon as Wang Gairan summons her, she naturally has no choice but to go obediently. In the main palace, the noble lady was leaning on the imperial concubine's chair, with a lazy look, her eyes only staring at her beautifully manicured nails stained with phoenix juice, as if she didn't see Lily already walking in front of her. Half a stick of incense was given as a gift. Doing this kind of blessing ceremony for a while would be more uncomfortable than kneeling for a long time. Cold sweat broke out on Lily's forehead in a short time. When Wang Gairan saw her pale face, he felt happy in his heart. The Wang family was originally considered a wealthy family in Daqi. She took advantage of her family's favor and directly entered the palace and was granted the title of a 6th-grade noble. She was even more fortunate to be able to live alone in a palace without having to squeeze in with others. However, she was so clever in this harem. Although she was there, her appearance was not conspicuous. With the large number of young beauties flooding into the harem every year, she was probably already forgotten by the young emperor. But Wang Gairan is not willing to give in. She has no children yet. Whether it is for herself or for her family, she always wants to win. However, Qi Yufeng is neither cold nor indifferent to her. In a month, there are many concubines staring at Qi Yufeng, let alone it's not her turn once in a month, or even in a year. Nan Zhao was finally defeated and a group of women entered the palace. Wang Gairan suppressed his jealousy and welcomed Lan Lily into his palace. She was secretly happy at first. After all, the eldest princess Nan Zhao was indeed beautiful. The emperor also liked her at first. It has been almost 2 years since she entered the palace. Except for the 2 times when she first entered the palace, the emperor has never set foot in the palace again. Unexpectedly, he came several times one after another. The king was very happy. I tried to seduce her secretly several times, but unfortunately I never succeeded. That day, the emperor sent Lily back again. Wang Gairan wanted to follow him, but was stopped by Li Chengui. She sent people to invite her several times, but got no response from Qi Yufeng. Wang Gairan was naturally angry. In the past, she originally thought that having a beauty like Lily living in her palace would attract the emperor to come over, but now Qi Yufeng came, but he was with Lily when he came, not to mention that she wanted to share some of the meat. She didn't even drink the dregs of the soup. Of course Wang Gairan turned his back. Now he deliberately wanted to punish Lily and deliberately made her squat in front of him in the same posture. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 190. Lily might not be good at it, but in terms of endurance, she was much better than the original one. Even though she was sweating profusely, she gritted her teeth and remained silent until Wang Gairan couldn't sit still. He cursed a few times in his mind and then looked at Lily coldly. Why is Lan Chang coming to my palace? Go back, I don't have an emperor here. Wang Gairan really deceived others too much. Hanyan lowered his head, and Hanzu helped Beihe to the left and right. They said yes in unison, and then retreated in the face of Wang Gairan's sneer. It's really too much. It was clearly Wang Gairan who called the young master here, but now he behaves like this. Hanzu was a little more off-tempered and couldn't help but muttered a few words to herself, only to be glared at by Hanyan. Dare not say anything. Although Lily could hold it back just now, when she stood up, her legs hurt like needles. She couldn't even stand steady. Two girls helped her back to her side hall. She had just entered the palace. When he opened the door, he found that it was quiet inside. The two serving eunuchs knelt respectfully outside. When he saw her coming back, Li Chengui, who was standing outside the courtyard, breathed a sigh of relief. Little ancestor, where have you gone? Your Majesty. I'm all in a hurry. Hearing Qi Yufeng's arrival, Hanyan and Hanzu couldn't help but smile in surprise, but Lily frowned, resisting the discomfort in her legs, and responded softly. Li Chengui was about to come over to help her, but Qi Yufeng, who was wearing a blue gown and a hat with a jade medal on his head, came out with a frown on his face. He glanced at Lily with his slender eyes, turned around on her knees, and then seeing Lily's somewhat pale face, she curled up her lips and smiled. There was no warmth at all in his eyes. But he said warmly, "Look at my poor beloved concubine. What's wrong? Qi Yufeng in the plot is an emperor who is extremely controlling. There are secret guards everywhere in the harem who are only controlled by him." If he didn't know that Lily had gone before, not to mention that Lily, who was familiar with the plot, wouldn't believe it. Even Han Yan and others certainly didn't believe it. But if the emperor wanted to play, no one would dare to expose him. Lily smiled slightly. Holding back the pain in his legs, he bent his knees and bowed to Qi Yufeng. Your Majesty, be safe. She didn't show any signs of being surprised to see Qi Yufeng. Instead, Qi Yufeng's eyes flashed with amusement, and he nodded at her. No need to be polite. After saying that, he turned around and entered the palace first. Although Lily decided to please Qi Yufeng and get some favors for the original owner, but when the real thing came, she didn't know how to sit. The two sat there for a long time. Qi Yufeng took a copy of the Chronicle of the Qi dynasty and read it interestingly. Lily sat quietly in a daze. For a moment, the only sound in the hall could be heard was the soft rustle of Qi Yufeng turning the pages of the book, and there was no other sound at all. The palace people you sent are pretty good. Although Qi Yufeng had a smile on his face at the moment, but a look of impatience gradually appeared in her eyes. This big-breasted and brainless eldest princess of Nanzhao Kingdom seemed to have grown up overnight, becoming sensible and quiet. In addition to being able to enjoy the joy of fish and water with her, Huan, he actually felt comfortable now when he was alone. Although Chi Yufeng enjoys the way women are jealous for him, it does not mean that he will always like that kind of life. He sometimes needs to be quiet. Although most women will be quiet as long as he makes a request, Lily is different. She is truly quiet, without any unnecessary expressions, without any restless appearance trying to be calm. She seems to be a potted plant planted there, and her complacent look makes people wish they could forget her calmness. The expression is torn to pieces. A trace of scarlet flashed in Chi Yufeng's eyes, but he put down the chronicle in his hand, which he was gradually losing sight of, in a serious manner, and hooked his hand at Lily. "Come here." Lily frowned, turned her face to the side, took a deep breath, then stood up and walked towards Chi Yufeng. Before he could get closer, he was already pulled into his arms. "You have a charming face, but you are so calm. Unlike before, did I misjudge you at first, or did I underestimate you?" Chi Yufeng's eyes narrowed slightly, and the smile at the corner of his mouth made him whole. He looked very relaxed, but there was no warmth at all in those eyes. Although the smile on his face was warm, there was a bit of violence in those eyes. Lily felt chilled after just one look and lifted her chin from him. He moved his hand away, and thinking of what Chi Yufeng said just now, he couldn't help but ask, "What palace servant did the emperor just say that I sent to you?" She avoided Chi Yufeng's question and instead brought up the matter of the palace people. Chi Yufeng's palm fell, but he still maintained the posture that restrained her just now, and laughed softly in a low voice. "Are you pretending to be stupid with me?" He didn't know what he was talking about. Lily thought about the fact that she had done so many missions, but twice she was almost recognized by others because of her differences from the original owner. Her heart couldn't help but tightened, and just when she was about to speak, Chi Yufeng glanced at her thoughtfully, and said softly, "Of course they are the beauties you gave me to enjoy. Find them and teach them so much. I should. Is it very strenuous?" Knowing that there were Chi Yufeng's secret guards everywhere in the harem, Lily didn't expect that he would arrange for someone to guard this remote place. She felt a little upset for a while, but these women were not for her own benefit, so even if Chi Yufeng knew about it, she still had a clear conscience, because her purpose was not with Chi Yufeng, and she had no intention of getting any benefits from doing this, just to prevent Li Baisu from saying these things when she appeared in the future and making Chi Yufeng's heart flutter. After being seen through, Lily only stiffened for a moment, and then quickly returned to normal. "How can I find it hard for me to serve the emperor? If the emperor doesn't like it, I will just stop doing it in the future." After Lily finished speaking, she wanted to leave Chi Yufeng's arms by sitting up straight. He was wearing casual clothes. Although her chest was warm, her hard and strong body gave people a very dangerous feeling, as if she was facing a cheetah that could jump up and kill people at any time if she disagreed. She herself had practiced martial arts many times, so she dared Chi Yufeng must have martial arts skills. This man was moody and murderous, and Lily could smell the smell of blood while lying in his arms, which made her feel very uncomfortable. Seeing that she didn't deny it, but seemed to admit it, Chi Yufeng was stunned, and then couldn't help laughing softly. "My beloved, you are really honest." It was said so directly that it seemed like he was making a fuss out of a molehill if he asked again. The eldest princess of Nanzao Kingdom seemed to have changed after not seeing him for a while, but under his eyes, she was still the same person. The real change started when a thunderstorm suddenly started falling. Chi Yufeng glancing at Lily, the smile at the corner of her mouth deepened. This time he stayed at Lily's place. On the second day, in addition to a bowl of bazai soup sent by Lu Hao's father-in-law, there was also a decree to promote Lily to a nobleman. Once promoted, Chi Yufeng might be she felt that it was very annoying to have to face the harassment from the noble king every time she came back, so she had someone clean up a palace for Lily. There were more people waiting around, and the day for Li Baisu to sleep with him finally came. From the fact that Chi Yufeng knew that the palace maids he met on the roadside were the fault of Lily, Lily was sure that he was well aware that Li Baisu pretended not to know Chi Yufeng. Dealing with such a person was really tiring and tiring. After hearing the news from Han Yan that Li Baisu was sleeping with her for the first time, Lily couldn't stop it from happening. Even though she was a little anxious, she was helpless. In the palace dedicated to sleeping, Li Baisu was cleaned and carried up. Due to the cold wind last time, she was secretly drugged by some angry concubines. Although there was a systematic relationship, she was injured. She could also recover, but she didn't have the chance to add those points to the softness of her body and the tenderness of her skin, so apart from her somewhat seductive voice, she was still the same as when Chi Yufeng saw her. I used to only want to marry an ordinary man and love each other for the rest of my life. But now I have become the emperor's woman. I don't want to treat the emperor as the emperor. I just want to treat the emperor as an ordinary person and as my own husband. Just like Li Baisu in the plot, she still said the words that moved Chi Yufeng later and hit the soft spot in his heart. But Lily had been guarding against this for a long time, so she taught the palace people to be careful when seducing Chi Yufeng. Everyone mentioned something similar. When Chi Yufeng turned over and got off Li Baisu, not only was he not moved at all by these words, but he felt a sense of ridicule. If you hear the same words for the first time, you will naturally be touched differently, but because the person who said these words in the first place was an ordinary and low-level palace servant, and Chi Yufeng also knew that these palace servants were sent by Beihe, he originally had no idea about this elder of Nanzhao kingdom. The princess was a little distant, because her inexplicable changes made him feel a little weird. At first, he wanted to see what tricks she was going to play, but later he saw her sending a beauty over. Anyway, he was the one who benefited, so of course he enjoyed it without hesitation. He sneered in his heart at what those palace people said but didn't take it to heart. It was just a plaything anyway. He couldn't even remember his name and appearance after playing with it once, so how could he care about what others said? Just like an owner doesn't care about the tone of his pet's cry, Chi Yufeng originally thought that what those palace people said could touch him, but now when he heard Li Baisu say this, he thought of the woman in the imperial garden who was pretending the scene. His eyes were cold and there was a sarcastic smile on his face. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Kidian to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to M to read. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 191. Husband. Are you worthy? Chi Yufeng thought about what Lily had done, and he vaguely guessed something in his mind. He turned over from the bed and sat up, with his strong chest still bulging, and called out to the people outside. Li Chengui came in and said nonchalantly, Ms. Li doesn't know her dignity, so she stripped her of her status and asked her to cultivate her mind and nature in the palace and not come out again for half a year. Li Baisu really didn't expect that Chi Yufeng would turn so ruthless. She couldn't help but almost cried. This was her first time. She suppressed her shyness and followed what the system said and was already trying to please him in every possible way, even those embarrassing gestures. She had done a lot, and now her whole body ached. Before she could act coquettishly and seek favor, Chi Yufeng actually deprived her of her low status. Li Baisu felt a little panicked. Without Chi Yufeng's love, how could the beloved concubine system help her turn around? She reached out to Chi Yufeng like a little daughter, shaking his hand pitifully, Your Majesty. The enhanced voice sounds really moving, but it's a pity that she doesn't have the slim waist that she slept with for the first time in the plot, nor the slender and attractive long legs. She herself is not very old, so this for a while, the flat figure makes people tasteless. More importantly, Lily had tricked her before, and all the palace maids she sent were modeled after her coquettish demeanor, so Chi Yufeng had enjoyed Li Baisu's coquettish treatment in advance from the beginning, so her cuteness was gone. He got a head start and allowed her to leave a mark on Qi Yufeng's heart. He was just more impatient with her now. Lily was originally worried about Li Baihu's bedtime, but she didn't expect that when she woke up the next day and served her with a cigarette, she stood up and smiled, "My lord, now the news has spread throughout the palace that Li Cai's wife offended the emperor when she went to bed." This made the emperor angry. He stripped her of her status and allowed her to cultivate herself in the palace. When she heard this, Lily suddenly felt like she was pleasantly surprised. Before she could ask what was going on, Han Yan showed a bit of disdain on her face. "Now it's spread throughout the palace, I regard the emperor as my husband, the empress." Han Yan was so proud that she spilled the beans and almost said something about the empress, but she shut up in time. But even before she finished talking about smoking, Lily could guess at this moment that Li Baihu was being manipulated. If she had just said those words in private, if Qi Yufeng doted on her, he would take care of her, but Qi Yufeng, this man, was moody and he didn't want to take care of Li Baihu anymore. Once these words were spoken and she regarded Qi Yufeng as her husband, what would become of the queen? Even if the current queen no longer favors her because of her age. But in terms of title, she is Qi Yufeng's main queen, and she has been in charge of Qi's harem for many years. Now Li Baihu is having fun. Lily couldn't help but almost laughed. She was originally worried about this matter, but she didn't expect that this time the plot did not change, but it also took a turn. Just when she was about to laugh, the voice of the eunuch singing the edict came from outside, "Welcome, your majesty." Li Baihu did not get Qi Yufeng's favor. It would be difficult for her to stand up this time, especially if she offended the queen. It would be difficult for her to live in the future. Although this so-called favored concubine system is somewhat invincible, in Lily's view there is no such thing as a free lunch. The beloved concubine system can help Li Baihu change her body and have peerless beauty, but it must also ask for something. If Li Baihu fails to meet its standards, it is not certain whether it will transform Li Baihu in vain. If it doesn't get what it wants, Li Baihu is not necessarily lucky to have this system. When Qi Yufeng came in, he saw that she was in a good mood, and he couldn't help but curl his lips. "What is it that makes you so happy? Tell me about it." There was a happy look on Lily's face, and she pretended to be happy. Said, "The emperor is here." She leaned over softly, but Qi Yufeng twitched the corner of his mouth. It could be seen that she was not very surprised when she did this. He came over. It was probably because he didn't want to kneel down to salute, but he didn't reveal it. Recently, he was a noble man. There was a big change from before, especially those eyes that made him unable to see through. The more he couldn't guess what she was thinking, the more Qi Yufeng wanted to understand. Although Lily doesn't look as gorgeous as before after her transformation, it is surprisingly comfortable. Her beauty does not give people a deep sense of oppression before, but it makes people afraid to look directly. He was very approachable and his personality was not enthusiastic, but just like that, he looked at her favorably. "I heard that Mrs. Li was kicked out of the palace by the emperor." Lily did not hide her gloating at all. Li Baihu was one of her mission targets. At this moment, Li Baihu was unlucky. She was happier than anyone else. After all, Li Baihu, once she is unlucky enough to not be favored by Qi Yufeng, her system will not be able to play any role, which will reduce her pressure a lot. Qi Yufeng smiled slightly and was not annoyed after hearing this. This morning he went to the Empress Dowager's palace. Even the Empress expressed some pretentious concern about Li Baihu being ordered to be put into solitary confinement, even though the women in the palace hated each other so much that they tried to use tricks at every turn. But her face was still full of affection from her sister. Lily was honest and did not say anything that made him impatient like those women, which surprised Qi Yufeng. "Is she having a problem with you?" Qi Yufeng walked to the beauty and sat down next to him. He hugged the soft and boneless beauty and lay in his arms. He casually picked up a book on the table and looked like he had never been there. I looked at the unturned Buddhist scriptures and found that the surroundings were refreshing and refreshing. Unlike other palaces with incense, there were only a few peach blossoms placed in the blue and white vase on the table. Although there was no intoxicating aroma, it adds a bit of brightness to this dull palace. That's true, otherwise, you wouldn't have tried so hard to plot against her. Chi Yufeng finished asking, and before Lily could answer, he replied with a half smile. Feeling that the body under his hands was very relaxed just now, after saying this, he froze for a moment and couldn't help but laugh in his heart. Lily didn't expect that Chi Yufeng would see through her little thoughts. She was a little embarrassed for a moment and didn't know what to say. She didn't have any quick wits. This time, Li Baisu relied on her knowledge of the plot to think so. A stupid method came out, but Chi Yufeng didn't expect it even if he saw it, and now he actually said it in front of her. The appearance, posture, and even the manner in which they spoke are similar to those of the maids you sent to me. My beloved concubine seems to have a deep personal grudge against the Li family, so she uses me as a target. My beloved concubine, please tell me, how should I punish you? Chi Yufeng's voice seemed to contain a bit of a smile. He lowered his head and held Lily lying on his chest higher. His lips moved around the top of her head. There was nothing on her body. It has a cloying fragrance, but the hair is washed very clean and feels good to the touch. There are almost no concubines in the harem with bad hair, almost all of them have smooth black hair. Even the older queen who is no longer favored still has black satin-like hair, but Lily's hair in front of her is both. There was no hair oil or balm, but Chi Yufeng really couldn't put it down when he touched it. He probably didn't like the eldest princess of Nanzhao Kingdom, even though she had rare beauty, but for some reason, since this after the eldest princess changed into someone else, it really made him unable to take his eyes away. Even when he was sleeping among the other concubines, he could still think about the appearance of this princess who seemed to be less beautiful than before in the eyes of others, but she was so beautiful. He was a little excited by the figure of a noble man. The warm breath he exhaled fell on Lily's head, but she couldn't help but shiver all over. Just when she was about to raise her head and speak, a sharp look flashed in Chi Yufeng's eyes, and he pressed her heavily against his chest with a smile. For several days in a row, the palace had been discussing the matter of Li Baisu being scolded. The queen was disgraced because of this incident. Although she was tolerant and generous on the surface, from the information Hanzu inquired, Lily knew that Li Baisu was currently living. Very sad. The queen has been in the harem for many years and her status is stable. In addition, she and Chi Yufeng are young and married, so even though she no longer sleeps with her, Chi Yufeng treats the girls in the harem as playthings, but he has a little more respect for the queen. Although he does not, I have met and dealt with the queen a few times, but based on the plot, Chi Yufeng has fallen deeply in love with Li Baisu, but the queen still remains standing, so it can be seen that the queen is not a fuel-efficient lamp. Therefore, after offending such a person, Li Baisu can only imagine how difficult his life was. Seeing that the weather is getting better now, why don't you go for a walk in the garden? Maybe you can meet the emperor. Li Baisu has been in solitary confinement for almost 6 months now, and it's almost time to release her. Lily doesn't like to greet Chi Yufeng very much after she is in solitary confinement, let alone take the initiative to go to the imperial garden to follow him. It was a chance encounter, and even when he occasionally came over, he didn't have much time to please him. If Chi Yufeng hadn't come again 5 or 6 days a month, Han Yan would have felt that his master had fallen out of favor. Whenever the weather is nice and sunny, a group of concubines are dressed up in all their glory. Even if they don't meet Chi Yufeng, it is still eye-catching to see a group of beauties in various poses. After Lily came to this task, Chi Yufeng was too rebellious. Because of the weather, she didn't dare to practice her 9-yang manual, so she had no other pastime except practicing calligraphy all day long. When she heard Han Yan's suggestion, she naturally agreed happily. Nowadays, Daki's harem has become the world of Baiwansha. Ever since Lily wore the material made of biwancho when she went out, many people were so jealous that they all had such a dress when they returned home. Especially when the weather gets hot, groups of concubines with their hair styled high and fluttering clothes give the place a fairy-like feel. To be continued. P.S. Second update. It's not that I missed the appointment on purpose, I was stuck in writing. I always thought that writing quick travel would not be stuck, but I was wrong. Sorry everyone, I am a sinner.